Let's go! So LSU not only lost a commitment, they also lost a current player before the season even began today, but it could actually be a good thing. But the thing I'm really excited about is that the new jersey numbers have been released. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Obviously, the biggest story from today is that LSU lost a commitment from A.J. Johnson, and defensive lineman Eric Taylor has decided to leave the team. So let's start here with A.J. Johnson. He has decided to not play his senior year at Isidore Newman High School, as he has moved to Florida to play his final year of high school football, and he decided to decommit from LSU. Now, here's the thing. We don't know for certain if this was A.J. Johnson's decision or if LSU decided to move on. However, it's actually a good thing for both parties involved, as A.J. Johnson was a four-star wide receiver. Well, it's good because LSU is so unbelievably deep at wide receiver, and you're seeing a bunch of names here. The only name you see on this list that will for sure not be on the team next season is John Trey Kirkland, because he is a senior. So LSU is really deep at wide receiver, and more than likely, Kayshon Boutte and Coy Moore are going to be around for at least 2 more seasons, as could a lot of these draft-eligible names you're also looking at, and that doesn't include the 5 new freshman wide receivers on this team. So you also have to factor in that LSU has 2 other wide receivers committed in the class of 2022, and Aaron Anderson and DeColdis Crawford, and LSU is looking to land Shaz Preston, a Louisiana top 100 wide receiver, and if you watch the channel, you know that, to me, that has been the highest correlation of success for top 100 prospects, has been Louisiana top 100 wide receivers. So when LSU gets Shaz Preston, hopefully they do, they're going to be pretty set with 3 really good Louisiana wide receivers in this class, and that doesn't include Evan Stewart, a 5-star receiver out of Texas that LSU is trying to get. Also, earlier this week for the class of 2023, LSU got a commitment from Omarion Miller, a top 200 prospect out of North Louisiana. So that goes to show you LSU will never run out of wide receivers. Louisiana will never run out of wide receivers. And you can make a strong argument that it is by far the strongest position that the state of Louisiana produces. So losing a wide receiver in recruiting at LSU has never really been that big of a deal. Now, of course, it sucks when a guy like Devonta Smith goes to Alabama and win the Heisman, but during that same time period, LSU has had Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, Justin Jefferson, Kayshon Boutte, and a long list. So that goes to show you that, of course, you're never going to lose everything if you just lose one wide receiver who is no longer in the state of Louisiana. And this is actually a good thing for A.J. Johnson, because the likelihood that he would ever even play at LSU, and really any wide receiver, is low. You have to be exceptional to really play at LSU and play wide receiver, okay? And you not only have to be exceptional, you also have to be patient for your time to come. And with A.J. Johnson, knowing that DeColdis Crawford and Aaron Anderson, to me, I like both of those wide receivers more than A.J. Johnson, and I'm not just saying that now because he decommitted. I've said this on a live stream. So, of course, we wish A.J. Johnson the best, but once again, there's only 25 slots that could be used in each recruiting class. And keep in mind that with the transfer portal rules being the way that they are, LSU, as would every school, would like to make sure they have 3 slots that go to transfers and not high school prospects. So this does open up a very valuable slot in LSU's 2022 recruiting class. So LSU also lost Eric Taylor, and it's kind of the same thing. So Eric Taylor was a member of the class of 2020 at LSU, and last season he didn't play. And he's a true freshman. A lot of true freshmen don't get the opportunity to play. Then, it was interesting. We saw him in the spring game, and he was actually really disruptive in that game, playing both defensive tackle and defensive end in the 4-3. And once again, he decided to just pack up and leave, according to Shea Dixon. And just based on interviews Ed Orgeron has said in the past, and these are recent interviews, he's going to play his new true freshman a lot. So that includes Mason Smith, Bryce Langston, Landon Jackson, Savion Jones. So those were 4 guys coming into the picture that may have surpassed Eric Taylor already. And that doesn't include the defense tackles and ends that are ahead of him on the roster right now. And Mason Smith, Andre Anthony, BJ Ojolari, that list goes on and on. So if Eric Taylor was going to play end or tackle at LSU, he probably wouldn't have played a whole lot. So now we get to the new jersey numbers, okay? So some of these names we already knew from early enrollees, Mason Smith wearing that big number 0. But this is what's very interesting about jersey numbers, okay? I love them. I've always been just a big jersey number guy. Like, I think about the time Michael Jordan wore number 12 and all these random, looking at all the new jersey numbers here, and nothing really stands out except 2 things, okay? So obviously Mason Smith is a new number 0, but I've always been on this train. So you look, LSU has no number 9, so that basically means Joe Burrow's number is essentially retired. I know Auburn does the same thing with the jersey number 2 for Cam Newton, and that is for good reason. No one should ever wear the number 9. Joe Burrow, the greatest LSU football player of all time. So yeah, I'm fine with with no one ever wearing number 9. But here's the thing. Number 72 should also be retired, okay? The first thing is Glenn Dorsey is unreal, okay? He accomplished every last little thing you could as a defensive lineman, sacrificed a lot, played through injury, came back. He would have been a first-round pick after his junior season, but he came back to win a national championship. He delivered on that promise, and his number should be retired. Alrighty, so we got some practice footage here. We're going to go through. You're going to see Max Johnson in just a second. That was Kev Falk going through the drills here. Obviously, 2 new running backs into this equation. This is TDP going through the drills, and, it's just good to see everybody out there. Obviously, here's John Emery going through the drills, and this next guy is Josh Williams in the gold non-contact uniform. That's if the jersey numbers are accurate. And this is your first look right there at Corey Kiner. And it looks as if this is Corin Norman, Nick Demas, some backups here, and then Armani Goodwin, the guy that I really like a lot out of Alabama. So it's good to see, Kev Falk really working with these young guys here. And righty, and this continues from the offseason, and it goes along with what we were saying earlier this week about LSU's running backs working with the quarterbacks and getting that chemistry down pat, and TDP getting it looks like TDP getting the first team reps here, and there's Jake Peets right there working with these running backs, getting this aspect of everything down pat. So, this is a continuation with what we saw from the spring. And so, yeah, once again, very limited video from what we could see from practice, but there's our guy right there, Jeray Jenkins. You're going to put some respect on his name this year. I understand that we like to talk about a lot of different receivers who really haven't done a whole lot on the field just yet, where Jeray Jenkins had a pretty solid season for LSU. And the advanced stats on Jeray Jenkins, a lot better. And if you want to see why, that video is floating in the top right corner. There we are. More good video here from Jacques Doucet. Kayshawn working on the slants. So deadly over the middle last season. Here's John Trey going through the drill. Here's Devonta Lee in the gold non-contact uniform. So look at Chris Hilton. So, yeah, once again, Alex Adams. Let's see which one of these wide receivers breaks out. There's Deion Smith right there. And here is Trey Palmer coming from the opposite side. I believe this is Jeray Jenkins. Okay. Coy Moore Look at that one-handed snag. You got to love it. Let's see. It's Malik Neighbors, single-digit number 8, also a one-handed snag. It's obviously some really good stuff here. There's Brian Thomas Jr. going through practically the same drill. So you see LSU a ton of wide receivers, and how many of them are actually going to get targets? How many of them are actually going to play? It's going to be very interesting. You see all these wide receivers look good on these slant routes. No video of the offensive line. I would be shocked if the unit that we expect to start is not the unit that you would see out there. Left tackle, Cam Wire, left guard, and Ingram. Liam at center. Hines at right guard, and Decommits at right tackle. But this was actually a major takeaway. Brad Davis really getting on the offensive line, making them redo a jog to the next drill, and then yell out, things either change or they just stay the same. The standard is bleep championships. So you could tell LSU is alrighty. So here we have Jack Besh and Charlie Drost getting some work here at tight end. This video via Glenn West of Sports Illustrated. Once again, Jake Pete's working all these underneath routes. I believe that's Mangus right there. So, yeah, this is good. You know, this is not really a shock to fans of the channel that know I'm a big Jack Besh guy. So he's getting a lot of work here with the tight ends there, and that's obviously a good thing as well. Brody Miller saying Sage Ryan has been working with the nickels, and that makes a lot of sense. So Cordell Flott right now is your starting nickel, more likely than not. But look, LSU at safety, it looks like that rotation will probably be Todd Harris, Jay Ward, with Major Burns and Jordan Tolles in that mix. I could see Sage also playing some safety, but nickel, you know, there's not a whole lot of experience there really outside of Cordell Flott. So that does make a lot of sense there. I know Jay Ward played some at the nickel, but he's at safety now, and then Dwight McGlothern played some at the nickel as well. That wasn't really his strong suit last season in the limited time that he did play. So, you know, this isn't really a shock, but it makes a lot of sense, and I could see Sage playing there a lot early on. Boom! I hit my mic. That was not smooth. Anyway, I was going to wait and post this video after Ed Orgeron's press conference. Normally after, you know, practice, he meets with the reporters, so I'm just going to go ahead and release it. We're doing cauliflower pizzas tonight, but that means, of course, Ed Orgeron is going to make some major announcement right when I post this video. I could see a few names of other players that decide to move on that wasn't at practice today. That might be something he announces here, and that normally is, I mean, that's not too abnormal after the first day of practice. A lot of guys have changes of heart, and they decide to go elsewhere. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? But anyway, enjoy your weekend. Obviously, floating in your face right now, we have done a lot of Max Johnson content this week, and has been Max Johnson week on the channel. So if you want to check that out, make sure you click part 1, part 2, and part 3 of the series. And part 1 is one of the videos floating right now. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! I think we, I already told you what we're having. Cauliflower pizzas. Let's go!